Are we heading for a hung parliament, Prime Minister? Is it going to be a hung parliament, Prime Minister? Well, no answers there, as you might expect from the Prime Minister, as he heads off now to Buckingham Palace. But we will, I think, get some words from him when he comes back. I imagine it'll be a highly political statement setting out what he sees as the choices, what is at stake at this election, and absolutely centre stage will be the economy. That's what they've made the main platform. I'm sure we'll hear more of that from the Prime Minister when he returns, talking about what he sees as the danger of Ed Miliband, so on and so forth, and appealing, I think, above all to his core vote about what is at stake at this election, and saying to them, don't throw it away. In other words, come out and vote. Don't be apathetic about it. Look how far we have got, we will say, in terms of paying down the deficit, turning around the economy. Make sure we carry along that trajectory, and do make sure you vote, and appeal, if you like, to the core Tory vote.
We will reflect more on that later. Just our closing thoughts about the Liberal Democrats. We were cut off slightly there by the emergence of the Prime Minister. Yes, they are in government, as you make the point. So they are no longer the protest party, and that is part of their problem. In some areas, there must be some seats. Again, do they feel? Is your sense that they are having to focus on those key votes, perhaps where they have strong local councils, those sort of issues where they can still retain support?
Where you have a Lib Dem MP who is fighting again, you have a much better chance. That has traditionally been the sort of strong point of the Liberal Democrats. Where they dig in very hard, and it's awfully hard to turf them out. This time, I think it is going to be much harder, because they come with a whole baggage of government, they come with a whole baggage of austerity, they come with a baggage of tuition fees. And, you know, that is going to hurt them very badly. And even Nick Clegg in Sheffield Hallam may be vulnerable, because Labour are going out of their way to nobble him. They are working incredibly hard. I think the Lord Ashcroft poll actually put Labour ahead. So it is not inconceivable, although I think it's doubtful, it's not inconceivable that the Liberal Democrats could be returning to Westminster not only as a much diminished party, but without their leader if Nick Clegg is unsuccessful there. Certainly they will lose an awful lot of seats. I think there's no two ways about that. In part, not just because of, you know, the government factor, it's the Iraq war factor. A lot of their MPs got elected on the back of opposition to the Iraq war, because Labour voters were thinking, well, I'm not going to vote for Tony Blair and I'm not going to vote for Gordon Brown because they backed the Iraq war. Who do I vote for? I know, I'll vote for the Liberal Democrats. And that did them incredibly, you know, power of good in so many seats. That is all gone now. That's all a memory. So I don't think they're quite going back to where they were, you know, in the 1950s, when you could fit all the Liberal Democrat MPs in a taxi. But they are going back to a much smaller number. And they are going to have to think what they do next. And interestingly, listening to some senior Liberal Democrats like David Steele, former leader, he's saying, you know what, we don't really have the appetite for another coalition. I think it's questionable whether this party, in its bones, really wants to go into coalition again. And although Nick Clegg has made his whole sort of political pitch about trying to recreate the Liberal Democrats as a party of government, I wonder whether his members really want to do that.
Norman, for now, thank you very much. We will return our attentions to events at the Palace, because David Cameron just arriving and our royal correspondent Nicholas Witchell following all of this for us. And Nick, just worth reiterating, I think, just the formality of the coming few minutes, what happens now and what it all means in constitutional terms.
Yes, so they're across the Palace forecourt, through the centre arch, and into the quadrangle comes the Prime Minister's vehicle, having been escorted by the Metropolitan Police, cutting through the traffic. Across the quadrangle there, it'll draw up at the King's entrance, and then the Prime Minister will go in. In fact, no constitutional significance to this meeting. As we've been saying this morning, this is a courtesy call to inform the Queen that Parliament has been dissolved.